a brief thank you for the ladies for this morning's breakfast and personally for last night's dinner. That you always have to look after chefs and people that provide food, so we've ticked that box. I'd like to, please, if you would welcome to the stage Ernie Raymond, a traditional elder from this country, and please, Ernie, if you would come up and welcome.
Yes, Senator. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Just like the lad said there, my name's Ernie Raymond. I'm one of the descendants of the traditional elders of this area that you're having a conference. But so they've asked me to welcome you to our country. So on behalf of the Lagan people, I welcome you to Lagan country, and we hope that you have a very successful week of this conference. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
And while a lot of thought, planning and preparation goes into events like the one that we're attending, as what tends to happen, things evolve on the day. There'll be a slight change in plan from the schedule that has been published. I'd like to have the privilege of welcoming Tim Jenkins to our conference, and goodness, what better way to start a community exchange conference than, let's face it, the guy that put it all together. Please, Tim, if you can come to the stage.
Well, morning everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here to talk to you. We've been trying for many years to get me to come to Australia, and I've had a very long relationship with many of you as administrators. As you remember, the original CS system was on the global server, so many of you are friends, and I've known you for a long time. But I'd like to start off by just thanking everybody, in particular Annette, for arranging the crowdfunding which brought me here, and to all of those who contributed to the fund. And so I'm just very pleased to be here, and I think many of you know a little bit about my background. I've come across a number of you who've seen the film. But I've not come here to talk about prison breaks or how to get out of prison. If you want to know about that, come and see me afterwards. I'll give you some very valuable tips about how to get out of prison. I'll just briefly mention, I grew up in South Africa during the heyday of apartheid, and I knew nothing about what apartheid was. Extraordinary as it might seem, that is how apartheid worked. They simply kept you totally ignorant about what was going on. And when I found out eventually, I was so angered about what I saw, and I made an effort to go out and look at what this apartheid thing was. And I became active and joined what was then banned African National Congress, which today is the ruling party in South Africa, and was active in the underground, as it were, at that time, because the organization was banned. And I was running, I suppose you could call it a propaganda, an information cell with another person. And we had a print shop, and we were distributing leaflets in different kinds of ways. Doing that for about 2.5 years, and then after that I got arrested and was sentenced to 12 years in prison. And I was sent up to the prison in Pretoria, because that was the prison for white male political prisoners. Nelson Mandela and all the other prisoners were on Robben Island, which is a desolate little island in the sea off Cape Town. Anyway, so I was there in this prison, and managed to escape from it with 2 others. So as I said, I'm not going to go into the details, but what I want to talk about is the principles that I learned when I escaped. Before escaping, in fact, while we were still awaiting trial prisoners, we managed to smuggle in this book called Papillon. I don't know if any of you have heard of it. They made a film about it, a very famous film. And we learned some very valuable lessons. So the first thing that he said was that if you're going to escape from prison, you must establish that as your goal. So for me, that became a kind of principle for all projects that I have been involved in, is to have a very clear goal. So clearly, when you're in a prison, the goal is to get out of the prison. We're on the wrong page here. Right, and if you're planning to get out of a prison or pursuing any project, you have to pursue that goal single-mindedly. You can't just say, okay, we're going to escape, one day maybe we'll be lucky and they'll leave the door open, or some other lucky chance event will occur. You have to plan, you have to have that goal, and you have to pursue that single-mindedly, and that's what we did. Like when we were in the prison, only thing that mattered was how to get out of this prison. The other thing he said was always believe in the impossible. Even if it seems totally, absolutely impossible to do something, if you have that vision, that can make it possible. And when we got to this prison, they said, guys, there's no way you can get out of here. We've been here 20 years already. We've checked out everything. There's no way out of here. But I still didn't buy that story, and we did manage to work a way out of it. Don't think that you can think your way to your goal. It's really a practical thing, and you have to learn how to do it. And that's by collecting intelligence or information, by practice, and by experimentation. And that's how we got out of the prison, was actually by escaping a number of times. And each time went one door further until we got out. So we escaped from the prison, and I ended up in exile in the UK. And during the 1980s, there was a very tumultuous time in South Africa. There was a lot of protests, and a lot of people got shot, and many others ended up in prison. And my task was to assist with getting leadership figures back into the country. And it had always been a problem to do this, because once they're in the country, they kind of lost contact. There was no way of communicating. But this was the 1980s, and computers were becoming available. And that's where I learned how to program. My job was to provide an encryption system and this was before the internet, find a way that we could communicate with the activists inside the country. And we developed this unique system. We kind of invented our own internet, using a device called an acoustic modem. In those days, you used to connect your computer to the phone line with a modem, but even this modem was a mechanical device. You had a telephone which you pressed into the modem, and the sound would come out of the telephone and be picked up by the microphone. So what we did was we sent in the people into the country with a small laptop. They would type their message, encrypt it, and send it into this little box, and would record it onto a tape recorder. And they could take that tape recorder to any telephone in the country. It was far too dangerous to communicate through the public telephones. And they would send this message through the telephone all the way to London, where it was recorded on an answering machine. And then in London, we could decrypt the message. And so the messages start to go backwards and forwards. The leadership were based in Lusaka, in Zambia, and for the first time ever we had a real-time connection between the people inside and outside. And applying these same principles, so in fact for me it was the inverse. This time I was breaking back into the country, and in fact breaking into a prison, because our task then was to try and set up a communication channel between the ANC leadership in Zambia and Nelson Mandela in the prison. And the reason why they wanted to do this was because this was 1989. They were discussing the terms of his release, and they were going to unban all the political organisations. So on the one hand, the regime was talking to Nelson Mandela in his prison. They thought they had him nicely isolated there, and they were also coming out of the country and talking to the leadership of the ANC, and they were trying to create a split between him and the leadership. But little did they know that we'd set up this communication channel right into his prison, using a lawyer who took the messages in, and he was writing back. So he was in fact talking the party line. And eventually he was released, and the ANC was banned, and we all went back to South Africa. In 1991, an Australian came to South Africa, and he set up the very first Let's group. And somehow he managed to get a double-page spread in the local Sunday newspaper. And I read this thing, and to me it just seemed incredible how could this possibly work. So I went along and listened to him talk. And this idea of Let's, that people could trade with each other without using money, just seemed so incredible in a country where there was so much poverty. There was this unemployment rate of something like 25% in South Africa. It's never got any better. So on the one side you had people with great wants, on the other side you had unemployed people, and here for the first time was an opportunity to bring these people together. So nothing happens where there's no money, and excuse me, this idea just seemed amazing. So he set up this Let's group, and it wasn't terribly successful because most of the people who joined were middle-class people. And the kind of offerings were sort of conflict resolution and so on. And I just wanted someone to come and paint the walls and put up bookshelves for me. And that didn't really happen. But anyway, that collapsed after about 2 years. And then the ANC, in 1994, there was an election, and the ANC won that. Nelson Mandela became the president. And everyone moved down to Cape Town because that is where the parliament is. A bit like this country, everything is in Canberra, and there, although the administration of the government is up in Pretoria, the parliament is down in Cape Town. So I moved down there, and I set up my own business, and there was a group called the South African New Economics Network, SANE, and they started discussing alternative currencies. And a group of us decided to investigate Let's again, and we invited from Australia for the second time, so I've come back to sort of thank you, a guy called James Harris. I don't know if any of you have heard of him. He's written a number of books about Let's, and he spoke. He went all around the country and spoke, and he talked on radio and generated a lot of interest. And a group of us set up a steering committee, and we created this Let's group in Cape Town. And I had been experimenting with software, and I developed this thing which I showed to the committee, and everybody thought it was a marvelous idea, because our research had shown us that one of the main problems about Let's groups, and we had a lot of research, was that admins tend to too much work. I mean, too much. Sorry, I'm just feeling a little bit faint. I don't know why. Yeah. Sorry. So, mind if I sit down for a second? I'm just feeling a little bit faint. Oh. Sorry.
As in all events and community groups, we adapt and overcome. I'm just looking at Tom, if you might just give me a bit of a help here. We're just going to take the microphone off and Tim's going to continue from his place.
That's okay. We can bring the chair out. Oh, okay, you can move it over there.
No, no.
Thank you.
I think I okay now.
Sorry. No, it's right.
Shall I?
Yeah.
Move that.
Perhaps sit down here. Sorry guys about that.
Thank you for continuing.
How you feeling now?
Yeah, I'm okay.
You're okay.
Okay, sorry about it. So James came to South Africa. We set up an Let's group, and I demonstrated the software. And as I was saying, one of the problems that we recognised was that administrators, when they take on the burden of a paper-based system, it can be really too much, and you would have burnout. So when we introduced this system, we realised this would make a huge difference, because now administrators could virtually hand over the operation of the exchange to the members, because they could now enter their own transactions and enter their own adverts and so on. In 2003, we started the Cape Town Talent Exchange with 12 members. We had 12 members and we had this software. And for about the first month, I think there were like 5 trades in that month. Excuse me. And we realized that in order to get this out there to the public, we needed to go public with it. And we started appearing at public, just general open markets where people were selling things. And, sorry, feeling very strange. Maybe a coffee or something.
Come back later. Have a break.
All right.
To be continued. Go on.
We'll have a wee break and we might get Alison to do the talk and you've got
Hi everyone, I just wanted to make a little announcement while we've got a bit of time. My name's Tom Miller, I'm from an online education company. Can't hear me? I'm from an online education company, and we have like an online channel where we sort of, we're providing education for the new world, which we're sort of moving into. And we have a channel where we basically stream the stuff or put the stuff on the internet. And one of the things that we support is the Let's system and building education courses behind it all, so that young stuff like me can get involved as well. And so that's the reason for these cameras, so that we can attract these younger people. These videos, if you don't want them to go on YouTube, just let me know. But otherwise, we're putting them on YouTube and attracting the younger people, which is where they all watch YouTube, so we can get this flourishing even more. And it's already pretty amazing where the journey is been on. So if you have any questions, just pull me aside and ask me. But more than happy to talk. Don't know where we're going from here. We're just going to probably move on with the speaker for a bit and then come back to Tim. So yeah. Yep.
spirit of evolution. We're perhaps de-evolving, perhaps closer to the original address. And I'd like to introduce to Alison Bird, who'll be talking about Tableland Letts and how it's survived and become the success that it has over the last 24 years. Alison, would you mind coming to the stage? Thank you.
Thank you. And when I have a slideshow, and I think the projector hasn't arrived, so there's another little modification to the morning's proceedings. So I'll start, but maybe at some point the projector will come running in that door and then we'll have some pickies. But just for starters, yes, Bill?
I've got another option. Katie Lou, who's supposed to speak at 11 a.m. She doesn't need AV gear. And she's just grabbing her note. She's willing to move.
Keep talking.
She grabs her stuff.
I did want to say my thank yous and my welcomes, and also acknowledge the traditional custodians of this area, the Latin people. Thank you for sharing country. And it's absolutely awesome to be here and to see so many people, local and visitors, faces to names that we've worked with, worked with Tim over the years. Oh boy, it's so great to meet you. And yes, I'm one of the founding members of Tableland Letts, that's why I speak in this spot. And I'll be talking about Tableland Letts' early experience, the way I saw it. And tonight I've also had the opportunity to travel a bit, visiting other exchanges in Queensland, which then brings up the differences. I've been able to say, well, this is how we do it in Tableland Letts. So this is some of the answers to the questions as to, what makes us so great. It gets to be possibly some of the things we do that works for us anyway, whether they can be translated elsewhere, I don't know. So that'll be my turn at 11 sounds now. What else can I say while I'm here?
Is that you, the lady with the pots?
Oh, I'm the lady with the pot plant. Yeah, what an introduction. Yeah, when Belle said about the oldies on the veranda with the pot plants. So because it's an interesting question, the question I've been asked to talk about what makes Tableland Letts survive and thrive, or has helped us to survive and thrive for 24 years. Yeah, why didn't we burn out and drop out? Because that's so often the experience. Would have been thanks to those ladies with the pot plants, just keeping it ticking over until something else happened and whoosh. So, it's a factor to think about. But lots of other factors to suggest. But it's true that burnout and admin workload is a force to reckon with.
They go up and down.
It does go up and down, that's right. And we've definitely had our quiet times in Tableland Letts where we've dwindled to a mere few. Lots of members still on the books from the real times, and they just don't turn up and there's not much trading happening there. So yeah, we know all about that for those of you who are in a small exchange at the moment. How much? Is Katie ready? Yes, everybody got there's people going to Cairns on Monday needing a lift to the airport. So are there any drivers? I'll just put that out there, and if you are, I think probably is Catherine the person to talk to for coordinating? Okay, Catherine or Julie from Tasmania, because we need to match up obviously those offers and those wants. People need to get to the airport on Monday, and there might be a few too many for the one car that's going at the moment.
I've got 2 spaces on Tuesday.
Okay, 2 spaces on Tuesday. Thank you to Jane and Catherine and the team and Belle, because this is just the most awesome event. I'm just blown away by how exciting it is. We think of ourselves as being the end of the lineup here, and you've all come this far, and as you can see, brilliant venue and resources. What else can I say without my Tablelands for 27 years. I'm in the process of moving. I've spent a lot of time in Brisbane for health reasons, unfortunately. But yes, so I'm one of the founding members of Tablelands.
Which town?
Yangabara, by the lake, yeah. So I can tell you that the idea came up in 1990. Well, for me, I read about it in the Down to Earth newsletter and met with two friends on the main street in Atherton. Had a little conversation about we should do this thing, and I like to think it was my idea, but I reckon they'd been doing some reading too, and they probably think they thought of the idea, but the time was right, and away we went. And by a few months later, March 1991, Tablelands was launched. We chose the name Bartle for our currency. We had a big brainstorming and we put their names in. I think Quinkin was suggested, but then we did a little bit of a more research and discovered that Quinkin is, because that's the name of another little hill around here, and all the scoria from the volcanic hills, we use it in our gardening. However, it's a bad spirit, and the local people, the traditional Indigenous owners, they said, just don't use that name. Any project with a name like Quinkin will doomed. So we skipped Quinkin and went to Bartle, named after Mount Bartle Frere, the highest mountain in Queensland, which is just here in our patch, and had that lovely sort of resonance of bartering. That's where the Bartle came from, if you were wondering. Just reverted to B. So if you see prices on things, 20B or $20, B is our, Bartles is our unit. And I think Katie's ready, so I'll carry on later.
Thank you.